This is Eagle 7 Sports Radio. 90 minutes with mathematical. And that was an intriguing editorial. Boko Haram and the Borno 5. As I said, I have told this story several times. I hope it resonates with government and with some people. Yes, my very special guest today is the new sheriff in town, Malam Shehu Dikko. He is joining me from his base in that ancient city in Algeria, Constantine. Malam Shehu, good morning.
Good morning, my brother. How are you, sir?
Very good. You are looking good. You are looking good.
Always on the road.
As I told. Fantastic. It's good to have you for the first time since you became our chairman. And let's start this way. You were an integral part of those who designed the return of the NSC bill. You proposed it, you defended it, you knew the content inside out, and of course, it just made sense, deservedly, that you should be the chairman of the NSC. So whilst I'm congratulating you for it, my first question is, now that you have gotten there, is it as you envisaged it would be when you were putting down all the dots and crossing all the T's and so on? Is the NSC that you have now taken over what you thought it was when you were conceptualizing it? How is the NSC now? How has your experience been?
Well, the bill that we started working with was in 2008, and we did the first one. It passed all the necessary legislative work, and unfortunately, it was not assented to due to the death of Yar'Adua at that time. And then it goes on and goes on and goes on until during Muhammadu Buhari, the last days of Muhammadu Buhari with Obina Oba, Sunday Dare, push it and get it. So at the end of the day, the bill went through a lot of changes, and the time have changed. So, but at least the fundamental is that we have had the NSC, and the mandate from Mr. President is, okay, go in there, start on this, and then see how you can upscale it to the next level. So still there are things that need to be upscaled to be able to meet up with the recent times and the new vision that we have going further. So we are all working on that. Yes, we all know the issues, we all know the situation. At least myself and you, we've been around. I remember in 2005, I was one of your committee members when you were working with under the Samba, tried to design something better for Nigerian sports. That's like 20 years ago now. And we've all been trying to get that done. But really, when we come in, part of the issues that people were saying before is that, the way the system works, the civil service, the people there. But one of the shocking things that really surprising is that we have a lot of competent people and knowledgeable people within the system. The only thing they need is the right focus, the right leadership. So we are quite excited to see that most of the people we inherited from the normal system and have now all aligned to the vision and the way we were trying to do things. So it's quite make things easy. So now we are all working the same lane together in the same direction. So we just try to put the building blocks as per the vision, as per the directives of Mr. President, and trying to get things done the way it should be and bring the changes, try to take a detour from what we have been doing before and do things differently. That probably might give us a different result, which would be the positivity we are all looking for in our sports.
Okay. This is optics now, just looking at it from the outside. So that's what we see. That's what we see. Apart from the fact that we have a new leadership in Malam Shehu Dikko, whose title now is chairman of the National Sports Commission, and we have a DG, of course, that had existed before now. What is the difference between what was and what is now? It is like just a change in nomenclature, but you are there sitting on the ground. What has been the difference between when we had a ministry and a minister, and then now we have a chairman and a DG still, and the entire staff mostly are still the same? What's the difference?
Well, the major difference, the major difference now as we start is the structure and the focus have changed. Now there is a law that is backing sports. That law can be amended, can be upscaled, can be made to do better. Before, when you have the ministry, there is no any law guiding the ministry. It's just a civil service structure. So everything has to work through the normal civil service process, civil service ways of doing things. So now we have the chairman. The chairman replaces the minister, take over the roles and responsibilities of the minister, and even much more. That is one. We have the DG and the secretary of the commission. The DG now takes the roles and responsibilities of like the permanent secretary and much more because it's now also the DG of that. And then the law now allows us to bring people in that can add competence to what we are doing. So, for example, now if I can come and beg my brother and say, look, we have been around for that. Even though you are 70 years old, please, there's something I want you to do for me. Come and join the system. I negotiate what your remuneration will be. You agree, you can come and work without permanently, temporarily, whatever it is. Before, when you have the ministry structure, you cannot bring anybody. Everybody has to come through the civil service structure. And there's no any consideration for competence or for sports bias or whatever it is. Anybody from any ministry can be posted to the Ministry of Sport as well. Remember before, if you check the permanent secretaries that have worked in sports, they have also worked in maybe petroleum, foreign affairs, FCT, everywhere. So that person have no business with sports. He's just seen his work as a permanent secretary. Likewise, even the ministers, anybody can be posted as the ministers. But now there has to be some professionalism. Before you can be chairman of the commission, you have to have the bias for sports and being in the system and know what is at stake and try, and most fundamentally the passion that is needed to drive the sport going forward. Likewise, before you can be a DG. So before you end up having the minister and the permanent secretary that have no business for sports, that have no even passion for sports, that the moment they leave the ministry, you can never see them in any sporting events because it's really not their patch. But as I'm here now, I'm in Constantine. I'm here to do what I've been doing before even I become the chairman, because I have work that I do for CAF, what I do for FIFA. I'm here doing the same thing here. And then from here, I'll see what I can do for the sports in Nigeria. So professionalism is coming on board. And now we are working with the necessary organs to design the new structure and do everything. So I can work out today and appoint a new director into the sports commission. So like they have value and they can add value to what we are doing. Whether you like it or not, before when you have a ministry, you can't just come and appoint a director. The director has to be somebody who has worked through the civil service for 25, 30 years before the director, and then must be somewhere within the ranks and file of the civil service. So you find that all kind of people are starting to run sports, and it's really not their business to do that, because sports is very, very professional. The same way you cannot post anybody who is not a lawyer to go and be the attorney general of the country. Likewise, now sports cannot do that. And then fundamentally, with the new commission now, all bureaucracies have been cut off. Even the president this is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he will tell you sports doesn't need bureaucracy to grow. Sports need fast decision, fast acting to do well. So now sports has been removed from the entanglement of the civil service structure and taken and put directly on the table of Mr. President. So whatever we need, whatever we want to do, if we get the opportunity to go and sit down with Mr. President, explain our vision, tell him what we want to do, if the president buy into it and sign it up, it becomes law. Everybody have to comply. Before we have to go through the channels, and people who doesn't understand what you're talking about will be the one to recommend to Mr. President whether this is done or not, because it's civil service structure. So it really held back the growth of the sport to do that. So now we are starting to make sure we set up a highly professional bias commission that will translate the times, that will live before, after us, and then make it, as you go forward now, everybody will say, look, let me be part of the system, let me grow in the system and become the chairman, become the DG, and we have professionals running the show. And then I believe, you see, so now with me and the DG, with our background in sport, we've been there for long, we speak the same language. You can see the output. If we are speaking with the wrestlers, we are speaking with the weightlifters, we are speaking with the footballers, we know clearly what is at stake. We are speaking the same language with the administrators, with the players, with everybody. And so it's all coming together, and you can see it's really giving sport a new vibe and a new direction, that everybody is working the same direction. So hopefully, as we make the changes, as we bring more things that we are trying to bring on board to really make the commission what is envisaged to be, people will be able to understand more about it. So it's not just about changing the name like they used to do before. No, in those days, they would just change the name and said Ministry Commission tomorrow, Ministry Commission tomorrow. But there's no any enabling law. Now we have an enabling law that says this is what you do, this is the powers, this is what you do, and that law can always be upscaled. And we are already working to upscale the law to mitigate and to correct all the deficits that we notice in the system. Part of what we are trying to change is what is the problem of sports in Nigeria for many years? Lack of proper, for example, dispute resolution mechanism. So we are trying to upscale the law to bring out the national arbitration panel or board or whatever we call it. That will now be resolving all disputes in sports in Nigeria. We don't have to go to FIFA. We don't have to go to CAF. We don't have to go to Olympic Committee. Also trying to resolve disputes, and everybody will know if you are in sports, this is the final table to resolve disputes, and which will make things to go better. We know we have deficits of infrastructure. The way you manage it, the way you sustain it. If you go and check the law of 1971 that set up the National Sports Commission, you can think that law was done for today. Those people before us were thinking quite ahead of time. They even have what they call the National Stadium Management Board that is outside the commission. That's 1971, because they know they have to manage the infrastructure to maintain it, to make it well. It's supposed to be an independent body under the commission with the professionals managing the sport. So we're trying to create something similar and better. National Sports Infrastructure Development and Management Board also, where we bring the professionals to come on board and then help us as far as developing new infrastructures, also managing them to make them sustainable. We have already set up the Elite Development Board. That will be part of the boards under the La Parasasas, under the new update we are trying to do to the law, the Elite Development and Management Board. So that all our elite athletes, they are experts. We have a Yusuf Ali, who is the top athletes that have run the race, that have run his own course, now heading that board, and he can be able to now deal with our elite athletes, which is board, we get all our support and see how we can manage them properly. We are trying to create what we call the National Sport Development Fund. It's fundamental because funding sports. If you resolve the funding issue of sports, 80% of the problem is done. It's just to get the right people that can apply the fund the right way and get it done. So we are trying to use that process to empanel the National Sports Development Fund. And we have already identified the sources where the revenues can be tapped in to come to make the fund well. So all this can only happen when you have the permission. Under the ministry, you cannot sit down and just go and be creating these things and make them backed by law. It's not possible. Ministry have no law. It's just civil service structure to do that. I believe at the end of the day, when we are done, people will be happy with the current situation.
Very good. You know, one thing you would agree with me that because we have been in the system together for such a long time, that this, you know, whatever the leadership arrangement may be, Nigeria has never lacked for brilliant ideas about how to deal and resolve with challenges of its sport. So this time around that something different happened. So many people, from the reactions I got after promoting this program yesterday, are of the opinion that you are not running fast, that you haven't been running fast since you came on board, and that, you know, not much has happened until this morning that we are hearing some, you know, great thoughts and programs that you are putting on ground. It is like out there, not much has been happening. Is this, you know, although you've answered part of it, but maybe you need to just take us through that again. It's like you're not doing as fast as people expected with an NSC in place.
Well, I don't know what fast people are talking about. The people are thinking we are running too fast. So it depends on who you're asking, and also who's following the trend. We have run too fast, too much, and then, but you know, when you're trying to build something sustainable, you have to be careful and build the building blocks the right way. First and foremost, when we come in, we have to first and foremost agree the vision. So the vision was agreed, and the objectives was agreed, and the final outcomes was agreed. That document is there for the Renewed Hope Initiative for Nigerian sports economy. It's very explicit and say this is where we are, this is what we want to do, this is how we are going to do it, and that is the final outcome we are trying to achieve. So that has been set up. That has been the guiding principles. and we are working to put the building blocks ready about it. And then fundamentally, we can't shut down the sports and say we are doing reforms. So we have to also be ensuring that the sports is working. And imagine in the last, if you take your back a little bit from the day we come in, myself, my DG, and the new structure we have, how many sports have Nigeria participated globally, for example, in all competitions, and what are the results? Even yesterday, you can see our weightlifters are in Mauritius and doing marvelous, winning I think 12 gold medals and preparing for the Olympics, preparing for that and stuff like that. We have the basketball, all sports, badminton and China and everything, and all this is that's happening. It is the commission that is supporting. We are funding it. Largely, we are the ones funding all this progress 100%. But we don't have to come to say, oh, we are funding it, we funded it. As you can see this comment from the Weightlifting Federation, for example. Before, how are they able to travel to get this? Is none. So we are ensuring sports is working while we are putting the vision and the strategies working, and we are there. Fundamentally, also, we have to do a lot of work and set up the new budget framework for sports. For the first time, we have changed the way sports budget is being seen in the country. If anybody can check the 2025 Appropriation Act of the federal government, you can see how the budget have clearly changed. Apart from the increase, it's not about just increasing the money, that we have got a high increase of the budget, over 300% or whatever. No, what are the kind of projects that has been outlined in that budget that will lay the foundation for us to go forward? For example, before we will leave our preparation for Olympics until the hour of the Olympics. We will leave our preparations for the Commonwealth until the hour of the Commonwealth. The last Olympics, some athletes were paid their grants, were paid their training grants at the participation venue. So how can you be paid your participation venue when you are supposed to compete? You are not trained. That's why we came with nothing. But now already we have created budget lines in our budget that says we start preparing for Olympics every year. So if you check the budget, you see Olympic preparations. And we are doing it. That's why we are going to all this competition. We are funding it. We have budget line for Commonwealth preparation. It's there. So every year we have the budget line going forward and stuff like that. We have a budget line to change our media structure, because without media and content, without production, there's no sport. It's media that drives sport. So we have a new budget line in the budget line that says we can work with the NTA, repair the infrastructure we have, see how we can now use it to make sports more popular and earn money from it. We have budget line that says we can even pay sports federation to do sport for us, and then we take the content and monetize it and the money back. That budget is there. We have budget line that says we can support any Nigerian team that won a league in their own sport and going to join Nigeria in the continent. We should be able to support them a little bit so they can perform well. We have that budget line created. Apart from the massive infrastructure, Abuja Stadium have not done any massive repairs since it is actually opened in 2003. It is only the last 2 years when Aliko Dangote tried to support to do any pitch. That's the massive repair that has been done. But now we have a huge budget, if you look at it, to revamp the whole stadium, bring it back to life. Apart from Abuja, we have budget line to also work on other stadiums across the country. And we are working with the state government, like Awolowo Stadium, Liberty Stadium. We are working with the state government and other private sector in Kaduna, Ahmadu Bello, the state government and other private sector. We are all putting it together to do that. All these things is happening under our watch, trying to create a new structure for our sport. In fact, I even pushed to create a budget line to take care of our retired athletes. Yes, like you, that have been the best of our best. We created a budget line. It's supposed to be in the budget. That is a permanent budget line that we can look at. We can look at deserving athletes that have won the national JC and they need issues, and we can support them to do that, just like a pension, but not really pension per se. But at least there's a budget line to support them. We can't wake up and see our heroes that we worshipped before, and then they are now begging and running helter-skelter, trying to sort little things in life that we should have been able to say thank you and get it done. So we want that budget line to be also a permanent budget line in our budgets to do that. We are also engaging the private sector because it's very key. We can't do this without the private sector. We have engaged the big telecoms, the big banks, everybody. We are all working together with them to see what we can put together. But we decided that we as the government have to put our first leg forward before we now try to get the private sector, because they have to see that the government are trying to do. And there are a lot of, if you had the speech of Mr. President when he hosted the unveiling of the torch for the National Sport Festival, he said clearly we are working on special incentives to be able to drive the private sector and sustain them within the sector. All what we are working on. So we are working to upscale the legislation. We are working to get the sports going. We are working to get the reforms. Everybody is excited. 2 days ago, our elder, Dr. Yamasa, walked into my office and said, look, he's just feeling so happy. Every day he opens the radio, the TV, he's feeling happy to see the progress and the way we are taking sports for myself and my colleagues in the National Sports Commission. He just come to say thank you. He just left the office. There's no validation that is needed like people like that who has been in the system, have held the position, and they know the problem, and now they can see the direction we are going. So to be honest, people are saying we are too fast.
Fantastic. Look, fantastic. You all I've heard this morning is sweet music in my ears. Sweet music in my ears. And of course, I visited you recently, and you just returned recently from Europe. And from the little conversation that I had with you, exciting news, even more exciting news. Tell us about that, your last visitation to Europe. I'm asking this because I know that an item there is one that I have always felt we needed to fix once and for all, and there will be a huge revolution in sports if that is fixed. But tell us about your recent visitation to Europe and why even you felt excited about coming back from that trip.
Yeah, because, part of the objective points we are working on is also infrastructure. Without proper infrastructure, there's no sports development. And part of the long-term vision that we have is Nigeria should be able to host every competition that we can host. Because hosting competition helps develop our sports, and also create value for the country, make the country look good, make the country look better, bring in the foreign investors and everything. Because when we host sports, we open our country to the world to do that, and they give a platform to do that. So far, if you look at, we have been part of some of the competition. How many international competition we have host? From the ECOWAS traditional wrestling to the volleyball, women. So many competitions are coming to be hosted in Nigeria. But in doing that, we have to fix infrastructure to be the foundation for our development to do that. So I believe, we are saying we are working with what we call the 3 R's: reset, refocus, and relaunch. Refocus means we have to be intentional and deliberate about what we are doing. So we have been able to convince Mr. President. We can never be grateful more for that, for his support to be able to approve the budget. Now, yes, we can start the fixing of our sporting infrastructure with Abuja Stadium as the flagship. And the fundamentals that has been the bane of our sports, for example, is the right pitches and the right tracks. If you put your fantastic pitches on your stadium, you give the foundation for growth for your sport and proper development of our athletes. For many years, we have been using the wrong kind of pitches in Nigeria, trying to take the easy way. Everywhere we go and put a rubber pitch, whether professional football, whether school sport, thinking that is easy, no maintenance, it can last for 10 years. But that has been the bane that has held back our sport to do that. It is shameful at this moment to say that the whole of Nigeria, we only have one stadium that is working. Uyo Stadium, the only stadium approved to host international tournaments. If for whatever reason today Uyo Stadium is banned or it's not playable, Nigeria have to go and play the international matches in another country. All our teams now qualified to play in the continent, apart from Remo Stars, play their matches in Uyo. Super Eagles play their matches in Uyo. And no country in Africa have the area of stadiums we have all over the country. We have them all over the country, beautiful stadiums. Maintain them, put the right infrastructure is not there. So we say, okay, let's use Abuja as a proof of concept. Fix it the right way, then we can now cascade into the lower spaces. But we said in doing that, we have to use the best of the best to do that. So we engage the best with the people that have fixed like San Siro, for example, Juventus Stadium, Real Madrid Stadium, Villarreal Stadium. All the best stadiums in the world are those people that are the ones fixing the grass. And we said, let's go and sit down and see what they are doing. What is your maintenance plan? How do you maintain this grass? What is the quality of what you are putting? That when we see it on TV, it looks like carpet. So we went there, inspected a lot of the stadia, work with them, agree a collaboration with them that they should come and work with us, work with our domestic talent, and see how we can fix our infrastructure the right way, starting with the pitches to do that. So we have agreed something like that. They are coming on the 12th of May to inspect all our stadia and then come up with a plan based on our budget to see how we can start with Abuja Stadium. We have so many private sector who are willing to support this venture, also to support to fix other stadiums. State governments are willing to key in to do that. And if that is done, you can see what we have. We'll end up the vision we had that each zone at least we should have at least one stadium that can host any FIFA competition. We have six zones, at least we have six. If we have six working, at least then we can go to the lower ones that can go to do that. And then in doing that, they also offer to give us free pitches that we can put in our schools, in our community parks, if we are interested. Because those kind of pitches are not the top end, but at least they are the ones for the foundational development within the communities and schools. In those days, decades ago, we used to be crazy about this foreign football, but I've stopped a long time ago because I realized it's not helping our sports.
Shehu, you support a club. That has nothing to do with your patriotism.
That's what I'm telling you.
Is it Real Madrid or Barcelona? I support Barcelona.
No, I don't support that. I watch foreign football now, but hardly before I support.
Which Nigerian club do you support? I know you used to support Shooting Stars. I know you used to support. Which club do you support now?
I support. It's quite funny. Since when I was a chairman of the league in Nigeria, for example, I used to get very, very upset to see top government officials in Nigeria wearing foreign club jerseys, trying to promote them and stuff like that. You can see a governor who has a local club going to watch his local club, but he's wearing a foreign club jersey. We try. How will you grow if you do that? How will you grow the domestic industry if you do that? So at that point, I make a detour. Remember, I used to be a huge supporter of, for example, I used to follow Manchester United, for example. That I was even able
Thank
to
God you have stopped. Thank God you have stopped.
I stopped a long time ago because the day I bring them to play in Abuja, for example, 2008, when I brought them to play in Abuja, they play in Abuja. I said, what did you do? I raised over £2-3 million at that time to do that project. So at the end of the day, after they come and play, I left. Where are we? You get the point. So I said, look, let's go domestic. That was why even when I was in the league, if you see any club official wearing a foreign club jersey, you find them. Because we need to promote our own, to be honest. Yes, doesn't mean you cannot support a club abroad, you cannot watch their game. No, it's a global, whatever it is, but we cannot elevate it above what we are supposed to be our domestic program. I can tell you a story. When we went to Spain, when I was chairman of the league in 2016, and we went to Spain to do a tour with the domestic team, based on our players here, to play Valencia and Atletico Madrid and Malaga. I made a decision that all the kids we wear for that tournament will be basically locally made. So I called OU. OU produced all the kids, the jerseys, the houseware, the training, whatever it is, but all made by OU. By the time we went to Spain, they keep asking us, who's this OU? Who's this designer? These jerseys are very good. They were happy about it. Even the ambassador of Spain called me from Nigeria that time and said, look, all the ambassadors in Abuja are asking him for a replica of the jerseys we wore in those matches. For the matches we are live on Super Sport. And we have to come back and give them more. So remember, if you can do more of those, produce all our jerseys locally, how many jobs you can create and stuff like that. You can support whatever club you want to support in your heart, but don't promote it, elevate it to the detriment of the domestic sport industry. To be honest, we'll do that. And I really, one day I might try to convince the president to even make the directive, no government officials will be seen wearing foreign club jerseys.
to do that. No, I know you will not succeed because there are some governors I know that support certain clubs.
I know,
will never succeed.
Hey, they can go and support the club, but they should not promote them in Nigeria. They should promote their domestic clubs here. So that our young ones will wake up loving our own domestic sport, having their hands and minds and their pocket into our domestic
sport. If we do our domestic sport and it is attractive and and so on, of course.
It is. We all have to make it attractive together. It's a starting point, my brother.
Yes. Anyway, let me just say that this is Eagle 7 Sports Radio, and we are reaching you from Wasimi. It's been an incredible more than 30 minutes of conversation with Malam Shehu Dikko. Well, one thing that most people would be interested in is where the control of Nigerian sports really is. That is with the national sports federations. you know, for through the decades, several decades, we've had upheavals, we've had challenges, problems, particularly around elections and so on and so forth, representation of different constituencies on the board. And so I know that this is a big problem. What are you thinking? How are you thinking of effective change in the federations? Their elections are coming up very, very soon. What are the differences you think you would inject into the federations that would bring stability, that will bring development, that will bring representation of all the stakeholders in Nigerian sports, the sports federations?
Well, if that's why I'm telling you about our vision document. If you check our vision document and you look at the strategic vision objective, number 3 there is federation restructuring, because we see the federations as our operating arm. We see them as our chief operating officers for the commission or for the sports in Nigeria. We can only provide the enablers and provide the support and what have you to deliver on the sport. But at the end of the day, it is the federations who are supposed to deliver on the individual sports. So they are very, very key and fundamental to what we are doing. And part of the research we did is, look, we are seeing federations as partners in progress, as part of us. We don't see ourselves as lords over them, for example. So we have to collaborate and see whatever we need to do to get them to operate optimally, to get them to deliver on what the mandate is all about. One of the first decisions we took when we come on board, remember, is to say that, look, these federations now need to be more privately run, aligned. Their way they do things should be aligned more to the private sector. So we now suggested that, proposed that, and directed that all the federations now will appoint what we call the chief operating officers. The chief operating officers are not going to interfere with the job of the president or the job of the secretary or what have you. Their job is basically to be the strategic direction for the federation and also try to bring in the private sector to support the federation. In the few federations that we have done that, you can see the progress they are making in bringing competitions, bringing people to support their competitions and activities and stuff like that. And one of the directives we gave also is that we are not going to be supporting any federation to go on international tournaments and events the way they used to do before if they don't show us a credible pathway and work they are doing in the domestic sport. So federations have just sat down. They're not doing anything on the domestic sports. They are only waiting for the next international sports come and ask for money to go and participate and come back. No, you must see a viral development within every sport, domestic competitions and everything before we can do what we have to do. Yes, to come to the big elephant in the room, which is basically how do you now have the proper leadership to drive the federations. So we are working on a very robust and very, I can say, strategic guidelines that will ensure that we attract the best people that will come around in the sports, people that can be able to drive the sports to the next level. So we are all working on that, and we hope to do that very, very seamlessly. You can see since we came on board, there's hardly any crisis in any federations because we see them all as partners and we are working together and working as family to do that. And I can tell you so far, based on the work we have done and the advocacy we have done, the kind of personalities that have come forward, say, look, I want to be part of this federation. I can support, I can bring money, I can bring partners to support this federation to do that. So we have to find a way at the end of the day to create a situation where both the people with the technical knowledge, who are very technical savvy, to get the federation going, but might not have the contacts and the zeal to be able to drive the private sector are part of the federation, and also the people that are passionate about the sport, who are also capable of support the federations need to do that. If I tell you some of the names that are now coming forward to say, I want to be part of this federation, you'll be shocked. So that we can discuss that now because it's not more public, but I can tell you privately. But at least it shows that the reforms is going further. By the time we are done with the federation, we see the caliber of people that are really leading the federations. In most of the federation, people will be highly impressed and will be happy that we have done that. And we want to make sure we do this rancor-free, the right way, bringing all stakeholders, giving a fair platform for everybody and opportunities for everybody to contribute what they can contribute. The people are very good technically. They might not be good leading the federation. The people are not good technically, so they can only contribute somewhere in supporting the federation. So we have to balance that kind of, not just everybody will come and say, I want to be president. Okay, if you're president, what next? What next are you going to put on the federation? Just about being president, you have to be able to drive the federation, the vision, bring the right support to the federation, bring the right competition to do that, and get the people with the technical knowledge to be able to bring their best to support the sports to move
You
forward.
didn't mention former athletes. You know, that has been a
No,
big issue.
it's
Former
part of
athletes
it's part of
specifically.
it's part of the fundamental. We are creating a clear position for the former athletes in all the federations. In fact, we have issues with that. The former athletes want to have their own. The former female athletes want to have their own. The former coaches want to have their own. So by the time you do that, at the end of the day, you don't know. But for each federation, you can see part of the engagement we have held engagement, for example, with the Olympians. We have discussed this, how they can be part of all the federation. We have held with the female athletes. We have held with the women, whatever it is. We have held with the para athletes and their leaders also, because everybody have to be on board to see how we can get things done properly. So at the end of the day, to be a proper representation of the quality people that can bring the right support to the federation, the technical people that can bring the drive to drive the sport, and the kind of interest that can come and give the kind of the experience in getting the sports to work better. For example, we are even agreeing that any any competition we are going, we must have like a former athletes in that tournament that will go with the team that will be able to bring their experience and their own thinking to support the younger ones and inspire them, and also try to engage the officials and direct them clearly on what the athletes need to be done to them to be able to get them to work. Uh, so we are all putting all this together to get the federations are fundamental to us.
Okay, one body that has been often underrated, underutilized, to the point that it appears to have lost direction and focus and purpose, that that hurts those who realize that this body should actually be the scientific and somewhat intellectual component of sports development in Nigeria. Is the National Institute for Sports. It's an institute for sports. It should provide that intellectual base for the National Sports Commission, the way it was founded. What are your thoughts on the NIS, and how much are you thinking of going back to its original mandate? You mentioned 1971. You have seen what was conceptualized in 1971. It was as if they had a vision. And those things are still relevant today. What are your thoughts on the National Institute for Sport?
Yeah, of course. I clearly align to your thoughts. What you just said about the National Institute of Sport, it has really I kind of I'm trying to get the right word, lift off what really the founders really thought it should be. It should be the bedrock of providing the technical support across, and also the direction for our sports, training all the kind of capacity and the capabilities we need to be able to get our sports going from the grassroots to the elite level. The NIS should be able to produce people that could do that. So we are thinking of the total reform of that. I can tell you, as I'm here in Constantine, I'm here with the acts of the National Institute of Sport, which was the last one was 1982. It has not been touched. It has not been touched in that time. We have to move with the times, because we are also thinking about the best way to reform it, to refocus it, and to reset it, to get it back to what it is. And people are saying it should be turned to a university structure where they can issue degrees. Some are saying it should be left those as the certification level and stuff like that. So we all have to now balance that and see. But we have to upscale the National Institute of Sport, give it the right infrastructure, give it the right connections to do that. Part of what I said the last time I was the visitor when they did the graduation, for example. Can you imagine somebody will go to National Institute of Sport, spend 2 years or 3 years to do a coaching certificate, but that coaching certificate will not get you even a job in an amateur club, because time have overtaken that. Because now everybody now is saying you should go and get the CAF C, CAF A, CAF B, and what have you. You can go and do your CAF C in 3-4 weeks, and that can give you a job because that's what the CAF and FIFA say can give job people to go and do work in football. But you can go and do a basic coaching certificate, standard coaching certificate, whatever. You can't get a job anywhere because you can't be sitting on the bench if you don't have those CAF C. I said, so why not? We should upscale our national Institute of Sport also to now go and partner with CAF, partner with FIFA, for example, on the football side, so that if they issue their certificate, that certificate will run pari passu with that of FIFA and CAF. So if you go to National Institute of Sport and you do maybe the basic course or whatever it is, that can give you automatic CAF C. You just go and domesticate it. If they go there, you give you CAF B. Somebody give you CAF B, so that it can be more relevant to the system. Because if you go and take the club licensing regulation, they will tell you only CAF A, only CAF B, only nobody mentioned the National Institute of Sports to do that. So that has really make it nobody wants to go there or nobody wants to go there to do anything. So we have to revamp it and also ensure that the right funding are there and fundamentally bring in the right competent people to drive the vision. Because for many years we need to, if you don't have the right people that are driving the vision, regardless of whatever plans you have, whatever you want to do, whatever it is you want to do, it might not happen. But even if you check their budget this year, we have been able to work with them and the National Assembly. Their budget this year have upscaled much more than what they have last year as well to be able to deliver on that. But really, it needs a total overhaul of the concept and the vision and the deliverables and the final outcomes we want to achieve from that National Institute of Sport. And then as we are doing that, we also on the legislative regulatory framework, we have to be making very clear decisions as far, okay, this position in our sport, you cannot have it except you are part of, get the certificate from the National Institute of Sport. This position, you cannot have it. Some FIFA are doing it with the CAF C, CAF B. They will tell you can't sit on the bench. If you are not CAF A, you can't sit on this match. If you are not CAF B, you can't do that. You can't do that. You do whatever it is. Imagine with all the somebody like, for example, let's say Finidi John, who was coaching Iyimba. He has coached in Spain. He has coached Super Eagles. He has done everything. But when they come to continental matches, there are certain requirements certificate you need in continental matches to sit on the bench. And he doesn't have that certificate at that time. So Iyimba have to get somebody to complement to sit down with him, together with him. And that person has to be registered as a head. He has to come as a second because they want to make that certificate relevant. That's why they do that. So if you don't do that with National Institute of Sport, people that are being employed in the state sport council or in the commission, there must be a clear requirement that for you to get this particular position, you must get this training for the National Institute of Sport. That will make it more relevant and then more active in the system, and then more. And then they have to collaborate with the world best institute. I learned that it is the Germans that set up the institute, and they have set up what they are doing. The German one is still working. Why is our own not working? Then we should go back to Germany and see where they are, and also aligned to do the same thing. So let
me just publicly say this. It's just a sentence that we lost direction the moment we turned the National Institute for Sport into an academic institution. You see, CAF, FIFA, and all of those, they don't ask you for your HND or BSc or your PhD or whatever. They ask you to do a course, a very small course, and you that, and you are good enough to do this and do that. That's how the NIS was founded. It is not meant to be where you get OND, HND, BSc. If you want to do that, go to the university and do that.
In fact, let me add something there. In CAF, for example, they will tell you some of the courses they are doing. If you are playing for the national team, you have done this, you are giving waivers to start at some level. Now you can, because you know that the experience you have cannot be getting any university. Exactly. So it's just for you to go and do the course and be able to align to the new system, and then you can know and impact that to the best of your ability to do that. So those are things we need to change.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, now I have to just run quickly through so many other things that are here. One I know all Nigerians will be interested in is, although this is football, is Nigeria's qualification for the World Cup. Whether you like it or not, Malam Shehu Dikko, chairman of the National Sports Commission, you also have a big contribution to make towards getting Nigeria to qualify for the World Cup. What are your thoughts? What would be your role in making sure that we do that. It's very, very important. It will help all of us for Nigeria. I know it is tough. I know it is very, not just tough, it is very, very tough. But just your thoughts on Nigeria Super Eagles going to the next World Cup.
Well, it's something that we believe that by the time we came in, it's already a complicated issue.
Yeah.
Because we have played 4 games, 12 points, and we have only been able to put 3 on the board. So we have already lost 9 points by the time we came in. So how do you now recover that and see what we can do? The first thing we did is to we raised a memo to Mr. President, for example, and said, look, let's put what we call a presidential support group to see how we can rescue this World Cup qualification, raise private sector funding, and support it. And Mr. President agreed. If we do that, I'm sure the members of that group will very soon be unveiled to support that process. And for the first time, you can see if you check the budget line was already put in the budget provision, and the presidential support group was given a take of money. Unlike before, where you have to go and get it. So government has said, look, okay, this is the funding, start the support group. So we are already working on the support group. We engage the NFF, the best of our knowledge, to see how we can work together and collaborate to mitigate all the issues that need to be done. Part of the issues from the players, for example, when they came second in the AFCON, they were promising houses, land, and everything. Some are still in the process. I have to write a memo to Mr. President and say, look, we have to fast track this, Mr. President. Direct the FCT minister, direct the Minister of Works and the Housing to make the houses available. Mr. President immediately approved and directed the Minister of FCT and the Minister of Works and the Housing to quickly conclude the process and issue the houses and the land to the players. That has been resolved. We work with the NFM to bring the coach. That we have all discussed about the coach. The coach is there. And as part of our support as the commission, we now say as the support group, we will pay the coach, I'm sure, up to October from the commission to make sure that we are processing to pay him all this money to do that. In the last match against Rwanda, for example, for the first time in a very long time, it is the commission that hired the jet that carry all the supporters to Rwanda. We hired a jet and give our supporters and put them together. Work with the NFF and put the supporters together into one group, and we give them a jet. About how many seater? We took them to Rwanda, supported the team. You can see what happened, and we were able to get the result. We sent an advanced team from the commission to go to Rwanda and work with the NFF team to prepare all the logistics and everything. So everything we are doing in collaboration with the NFF to make sure we provide the enablers and to get this done. And we also came in and we discussed with the NFF and discussed with the players and put a bonus structure for them. I said, look, there is a bonus structure now. We shall agree on how we can qualify to the World Cup. We agree on the definitive bonus structure and compensation structure with the players, which was given by the commission and the NFL. The players agree. So now we have an agreement on how we are going to proceed the qualifiers and what the players are supposed to earn and how we are supposed to pay them. In the match against Rwanda, as they finish the match, as they are eating their dinner before they even take a shower, we brought their money. What was agreed. Put it on the table, they took it. Players always love that. Not that they are poor people, but they love to see that kind of support because they're very rich boys we have.
We love it. We love it.
Players want to see before their sweat dry or give them their money. They are happy to do that. They can dash to somebody if they want, but at least they are happy to get that done. Before they play Zimbabwe, we pay them that money upfront. What we agreed to pay them for the match that we paid upfront to do that. So the commission is providing all these enablers to ensure that everything is okay. So we should thank God. The World Cup ticket is still in our hands because if we win our next 4 matches based on the default for South Africa, we will qualify. So we still don't have to call the calculators. It's about win your next 4 matches, you qualify to the World Cup based on if you look at it, because South Africa are definitely going to be sanctioned for what they did. So based on that, we qualify. Now the NFF have arranged the matches in London in May and June, 3 games, which will give the coach more time to now perfect his practice to see how we can face the September, October matches. And hopefully, if we are able to fix the pitch for them before that time, well, we thank God. We are also going to go and with our experts that are coming to look at your pitch to see if there are any suggestion they will give to make it better before that time also, so that the players could be happy to do that. So we are doing everything possible to make sure we qualify, and hopefully the rest is on the players. because we as the commission, we have put all that we have to put on the table to get that done. The rest, the players have to do, and luck also play a part. The match against Zimbabwe, we play, we play for.
That was very, very, very
We,
painful. Very, very
we
painful.
were,
You
we
said
have
something
offensive.
there.
We have 42 players in their offensive 18. 42 players.
Yeah.
We score only one.
Yeah.
We could have scored 10, but they went and scored the last minute and equalized. So at times luck also play a part in this.
Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. You said something there. The NSC would pay Eric Chell up till October. Or are you responsible for his fees generally? Who is paying him generally?
No. You see, the NFF signed the contract with the coach, appointed the coach. They are responsible to pay the coach. But nobody will.
So why are you then coming in to pay him?
Because the NFF need time to go and set up the sponsors and get the people that will do that. And the NFF have a lot of programs they are also doing. Even yesterday here in Algeria, the under 17 are here. Our fellow under 17 play. And you know how Dala is now. So if we have the support group, it's not like the commission paying him. It is the support group that we have that will now say, okay, we support you, NFF, so that we can free you of these responsibilities. We can redirect the other resources to other things that need to be done for the team to do that. It's just our way of showing support to the team and to get everything stable to do that. I remember, that even in 2010 when they have the support group, we are part of it. I'm sure they pay the coach that time to do that. So it's nothing out of the way. The commission is not part of the contract with Shell. It's NFF and Shell, but we are obliged to make sure that Shell get the right support he needs, because before they sign him, we have to sign up and approve that they should sign him. Absolutely. So, and at the end of the day, it's Nigeria that we're talking about. And if you can do it, we'll do it. And so we are going to do it. As we speak, we are processing to do that. We want to pay him upfront till that October, so everything was stable. No need for salary issues. Just focus on delivering the World Cup ticket. It's part of our motivation as well, to make sure that the coach too have nothing to think about, only to deliver the team, the qualification as we all crave for.
Okay. Well, let me extend, the condolences, our sincere condolences, all of us in sports, to you on the passage of several of our stakeholders. Yesterday, Tade Aziz, the former president of the Nigerian Referees Association, passed on. The day before that, we had a FIFA-graded female referee, Abosede, who passed on in Abuja. Shortly before that, we had Charles Bassi, who passed on. And before that, we had Christian Chukwu. And before that, we had Moses Effiong. Three football players in one team that passed on within 3 months of each other. So we are extending our condolences to you as the head of our sports in Nigeria. But one thing that just crept up that is going on in the social media circles is a picture of Christian Chukwu, a video of Christian Chukwu saying some time ago that the NFF were owing him money. We are owing him money, and that has become an issue. If it is true, somebody like Christian Chukwu, probably the foremost leader in our football history, is making such statements. And yet we hear the NFA president or his office saying they were not owing him. What would the NSC do? You as the supervisory body, you are the body ahead every other body in Nigeria, and you are dealing with a Christian Chukwu and an NFF on this issue, saying that they were owing him or not. And Samson Siasia told me also recently that the House, they promised them when they won the African Cup of Nations. Some of them up till now have not received it, even though you said, in your speech earlier that you are trying to clear up. I don't know whether it goes back to the years of Samson Siasia or not. But just help us look at all of that in context.
Well, thank God is here. That is why they said to bring in the people that are in the system. Because all the things you said now, the two things you discussed, are also critical and fundamental into the matter previously. So I can speak from what I know, because, I think Christian Chukwu, may so rest in peace, last worked for the NFF, I think, in 2005, 2006. So, but I was also part of the NFF board at some time, 2014, 2022. And part of the thing we did at that time when we are in the NFF board, when we get ITO, I was a marketing committee chairman. The first thing we asked ITO to do is, ITO, please help us to resolve all the backlog of people that are saying they are being owed. And the ITO chairman was very passionate about it and said, yes, I'll provide the money for that. So ITO actually provided funding to pay off all debts of coaches and technical people that are being owed as the 2017 backwards. Because that happened in 2017. And I was the one that led the process. I got the money for the NFF then. And then there was a committee that was set up, I think by Mr. Chris Green, and some people were heading the committee that invited all coaches that have worked for the national team. If you are being owed, come and bring your papers and let's discuss some of them and validate them and pay you. Almost 30 coaches step forward as far back as 2008 and 2017, more than 10 years back. They came in, presented their papers, some were negotiated, some were agreed, they were all paid. So as at that time, anybody who is being owed between 2017 backwards was assumed that he has been paid. So I don't know what happened with Chukwu. If Chukwu have submitted his papers, he will have been paid, or whatever he happened, because he was alive that time when that happened, and he was very healthy to do that. So I really don't know where that one come from, what he said, because there's no any paper in the NFF that I know for sure that is saying Chukwu is owing this money, or himself have written a paper to the NFF that he's being owed this amount of money. I recall, even during our time at the NFF, when he was ill, Amaju Pinnick brought Otedola and everybody, even the NFF, went to see him, flew him to London, pay his bills. So if NFF have done all that at that time, and he's still being owed, and he didn't mention it to them, or didn't know whatever it is. So it's really something that is very tiny. But still, we have asked the NFF to go and look at the files and go to as far back as when Chukwu was there in 2005, because the secretary of the team is still there to validate whether that is true or not, so that we can know what we can do about it. If it is true, we surely resolve it. Definitely, the Sport Commission will not allow you to go on that way. And we'll take it open ourselves. After I've told you earlier, we have proposed a budget line in our budget to be looking after our ex-sportsmen and women and coaches that have done proud for Nigeria if they need be. So we have that funding that we can be able to do that if it is correct. But I doubt if it is correct at this moment, from what I know, from my knowledge. For the housing, I also work with Fashola then was the Minister of Works in 2019 or about 20, when Fashola also took it upon himself with Onochi to be able to make sure that all the people that were promised houses in 1994 were given the houses. Westerhoff came, I was there when we handed over the houses for Westerhoff, and all the other players were given. And as at the time, I was given a list of the people that were missing, and I clearly give it out to Fashola to make sure they were given. So some of them probably have not gone to pursue. You can't sit down at home and wait for somebody to call you and give you a house.
No, you don't want to hear what happened to those in your state, where they took them to see the houses. They actually took them to see the houses. They actually gave them keys, supposedly to houses, but the houses do not exist even up to today. So but we don't want to go into those.
No, anybody, I can tell you, anybody who has that issue, our doors and windows are open. They should come and tell us. I'm sure I will take it upon myself. You can see how we are able to resolve, because we don't want the issue to happen like that. People were given houses in 1994, and we are only being sorted in 2000 or 2001. So that's why I quickly intervened on this, the set of 2024, and go to the president and said, the president, let's do this. And the president immediately signed off and directed the FCT minister and the minister of make sure these houses were given immediately. Before I left Abuja on Thursday, I was supposed to have a meeting with the Minister of Housing, trying to get all their papers out and hand over their houses to them to make sure that is done. You can't promise somebody, a sportsman, something, and then you wait 10 years, 20 years before you can redeem it. It doesn't inspire anybody if you do that. So we'll make sure we resolve that. But anyone who has any payment that's being owed legitimately, if you submit the papers, sure, I will look at it. I will find a way to resolve it. I'm really passionate about it. You know that yourself.
Are you going to play any role in the funerals of all these superheroes that just passed on?
Absolutely. If the family really give us the details in time and send us the details in time, we will surely be part of it.
Okay. Well, your final words, your final thoughts as we round off today's show.
Well,
Is there anything you want to add?
Yes,
Finally,
the final thought is something that we have missed in the whole conversation, because I
okay.
heard you when you are doing the opening speech, and you are also fundamental to that, because with your WASIB, for example, trying to marry education and sports,
Okay.
that should be fundamental to what we are doing, because part of the work we are doing is trying to bring back education and sports to work together, trying to bring back all our school sports, trying to bring back all our university sports and what have you, to be a pathway for the growth of our athletes, so that they can have their education and they can also have their sports. So far, the NSC have a very beautiful collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Education. We are working together. We already have a joint committee working between the NSC and the Federal Ministry of Education. I must thank the Minister of Education for the two ministers for backing this process very well to do that. Even on Thursday, I was meeting with the Nuga people before I traveled away to do that, because school sports and grassroots sports is fundamental to what we are doing. And we are coming out with a very clear pathway to do that. And I can tell you, part of our budget line this year also, we have a budget line to support school sports and Nuga games as university sports. It has never happened before, because it's fundamental to what we are doing. The long term, what we are trying to do is to say that we should have what we call centers of excellence. For each zone of the country, we should have at least one university that will identify it and work with them, and to put the necessary infrastructure and the technical capacities, and pull out all our best students at that level to go to their universities, so that they can also advance their education and sports. For each state also, we should have one unity school, the secondary school, that will be tagged as also center of excellence. We do the same thing with them. We are supposed to address the National Economic Council, that's the governors and everybody, the vice president arranging that, so that each local government too can have one primary school that will be called Center of Excellence for Sports. So we can invest there, we can identify the talent, we can give them scholarship, we can now have a pathway from primary school, secondary school, and university. Everybody can go to those schools that are town centers of excellence with the bias for sports to do that, so that we can have proper stuff like that. And then we are now investing properly to see how we can make Nuga games better, and Ipoga games, the Sega games, Principal Corps, everything will be back on track to be really a pathway for our development. In the NSC, we are trying to set up a special unit for school sports. I was shocked to come to NSC and there's no unit for school sports. They are putting school sports under grassroots or whatever. No, there has to be a dedicated unit for school sports. And we are even thinking we should set up a federation for university university games, for all the universities and technical education and stuff like that to do that. So school sports is very, very fundamental to what we are doing, and is part of the vision that we believe that will work and provide the benchmark for our growth. In the last Olympics in Paris, 38% of the medals were won by students. So on Thursday, when the Nuga people came to the office and they brought the charts of the trials they did in the University of Jos for the World University Games, trying to get the students that will go there, most of the students are clocking times almost close to the best times in the world. Yes, very close to national records, or more than that, or even very close to the international records, because we have a chart that says this is the athlete, this is his time, and this is the world record today, this is the African record today, and this is the University Games record. You can see the progression. Now, if you can invest in that student, probably the next 1 year or so can get to the best numbers that we are looking at. So we are all looking at that. So that's my last one. I think that we have what we call we want to work on the school sports, and I thought our 3 R's: research, refocus, and relaunch. We have to reset our thinking, go back to domestic sports more, and forget more on this participation of international sports. We have to refocus what we are doing, make sure we are intentional and deliberate about it, and we have to relaunch our sports to make it more positive and more likable. And so we have to do the advocacy. That's what we are doing here with you. And thank you most sincerely for the platform to be able to put this this show together today.
Malam Shehu Dikko, the chairman of the National Sports Commission, you have given us hope this morning. I have not heard anyone, go to the extent that you have gone in clearly, envisioning a bright future for sports the way you have done this morning. Thank you. I commend you, and I apologize to all our listeners that I saw that we were having calls, but I didn't want to interrupt you. So it has gone smoothly without calls today. I sincerely apologize for that. But what a conversation that we have had this morning. This is Eagle 7 Sports Radio. Join us again next week, Saturday, when we bring you another one. Enjoy Constantine. Malam Shehu Dikko. Bye-bye.